So, I have played an unhealthy amount of Heaven Burns Red on the JP server, and this playtime doesn't even include the gap between the original mobile release in February, when I was using an emulator, until the August Steam release of the same year. And now that the global release is finally upon us, I now have a reason to geek out about this game and get a bunch of things off my chest. Now, you may be thinking, will this overthrow other turn-based giants like Honkai Star Rail? Well, honestly, no. I don't play Honkai Star Rail, but I can at least appreciate the quality and budget that does go into it. But as they say, taste is subjective, which is why I will convince your subjectivity with my subjectivity that this game is objectively worth a try. Heaven Burns Red's story is presented in visual novel style by Studio Key, which is the golden standard and premier industry leader in the visual novel industry. For this endeavor, company co-founder Jun Maeda is at the helm, writing the main scenario and composing the main themes, battle music, insert songs, and live performances. Jun Maeda is talented as both a writer and music composer who can masterfully combine these two powerful mediums to evoke genuine emotion in his stories. Some of his most popular animated works are the Kyoto Animation trio of Air, Canon, Clannad, then the PA Works collaborated trio of Angel Beats, Charlotte, and The Day I Became God, and coming soon, the recently announced Summer Pockets, which is set to air in 2025. When I found out about this, it was at that moment I knew.
I'm in danger!
Now, I'm going to be frank. It's no exaggeration to say that you're either playing Heaven Burns Red for the story, or you're not playing at all. For a gacha game, Heaven Burns Red takes this to the very extreme. The game lives or dies by whether you enjoy its story and characters or not. Like, if you're the type to skip cutscenes to get the rewards, then just take my advice right now and save yourself the trouble, don't play the game. Granted, your mileage will vary because stories are always going to be a matter of taste. But in Heaven Burns Red, the entire game, its gameplay mechanics, character progression, it all revolves around the story. The main plot is simple. It's set in a post-apocalyptic Earth where a platoon of girls are conscripted into a military equipped with a Seraph, a sci-fi weapon that can generate a barrier and allow users to teleport short distances. The Seraph Squadron wield these weapons to fend off the outer space invaders called the Cancer in hopes in one day to reclaim the Earth for humanity's survival. See? Simple. The plot won't obfuscate you with a deluge of highfalutin terminology. Most world building is experienced through the main character's eyes, who is just as clueless as we are, the players. The story also provides short flashbacks just in case you need to jog your memory a bit, or if it just wants you to embrace the ultimate sorrow all over again. You know what really grinds my gears? Silent protagonists. Especially if they're surrounded by fully voiced characters. Like, what's the point of having a self-insert protagonist if the game is going to limit your options in customizing their appearance and lore, and if all the characters are just going to call you by a pseudonym instead of an actual name? No one's going to buy the fantasy of this kind of self-insert protagonist. Maybe it's just my bias speaking, but I personally don't play video game RPGs to self-insert myself. I play them to see a story unfold before me. You can only imagine the huge sigh of relief that I let out during the prologue when the main protagonist Ruka Kayamori spoke in such a charismatic and eloquent manner.
ヤグリーボトトトトって叫び散らして魂を震わせる。もう戦いたくなくなるよ。逃げ出したくなっちゃうよ。
今日の調子は皆さんいかがかな。あまり無理をせずやりましょう。
Ruka is fully voiced, fully independent, her own personality, background, and presence within the story. And some information about her is still withheld from us, the player, but is gradually revealed throughout the story so that we can learn more about her. It just really drives home the fact that Ruka is not the player's proxy, but her own existence, her own character. I mean, for crying out loud, Chapter 5 is her origin story. As a person, she comes off as a troublemaker, self-centered, and quite frankly, a brat.
いつかいやおうなく大人にならねばならない。やだ
But later on, she shows her headstrong and charismatic side. She is a mega extrovert. Like, seriously, she initiates a lot of the interactions with others. Then you're just convinced as to why the others warm up to her. I would genuinely follow Ruka myself if I was in her squad. In short, she's overflowing with emotions, and you would be hard-pressed to find a gacha game protagonist in the entire industry with anyone near as much personality as Kayamori Ruka. Which, to be honest, was a really low bar to begin with. And then here comes Heaven Burns Red setting that bar way too high. But that's not to say that player agency doesn't exist. The player is occasionally given dialogue options for us to choose. I mean, look at all these options! Featured characters and events also get their own unique dialogue options. Not to mention, no dialogue is left unvoiced. Well, except the 2D dungeon sections, which are some grunts and mysterious cat, which likely has some kind of story relevance. But it's been almost like 3 years and we're still in the dark on that. But this game isn't just brimming with voices. Hiring popular and talented voice actors is one thing. Having great voice direction to utilize that talent to its fullest potential puts Heaven Burns Red leagues above other gacha story games.
マリー、どうするんだろう。
ケースケースケースケース茶化さないで。怖っ。戦いの日々にお疲れのお前の話を聞いてやろうとしたのに自分が疲れただけ。結局何だったんだこれという感想しか漏れない出来事でしたわ。
Just another testament to Key Visual Arts' expertise in creating stories. Your ears will be treated to a spectrum of voices, from the comical, the cool, the emotional, and to just outright, outlandishly bizarre. And look at this! This doesn't even have words, but they're voiced anyway.
わかりました。
すごい不服そう。
So by virtue of being a gacha game, that means the game needs to have a large cast of characters. After all, gotta sell those waifus to make bank. More characters equals more products, which equals more sales, right? Makes sense. At launch, Heaven Burns Red had a playable roster of 48 unique characters. Those 48 characters are divided and assigned to 7 squads composed of 6 members as part of a theme to match their identity. 31A, the Protagonist squad, 31B, the Mortality squad and their Tiger, 31C, the Mad Scientist and her D&D lackeys, 31D, the School Club squad and the Pyro, 31E, the quintessential sextuplets. No, seriously, Jun Maeda explicitly said in an interview that they were based on the quintuplets anime. And also, just imagine their birthday wishes every year. Hilarious. 31F, the masculine Fujoshi bait squad. 31X, the stereotype foreigner squad, although this girl from 31C is a Japanese weave from Germany, but just let that slide. 30G, the upperclassmen squad. Yes, 30, not 31. I'm not entirely sure what their theme is, but if I had to guess, maybe they were representing different aspects of traditional Japanese culture. But then, we aren't even sure if the squad leader is even Japanese because her birthplace is unknown. Well, And with the 3rd anniversary soon approaching us after years of banners and story releases, can you guess how many unique playable characters were added to the game since launch? 0. None. No unique playable characters have been added since launch. I mean, there is the collab characters, but that doesn't count. And it may be difficult to imagine a gacha game without an expanding playable character roster, but this is just further evidence of Heaven Burn Red's steadfast commitment to this story. The intent is that the gacha system, and more importantly the entire story, was written with these 48 characters in mind. So how does it work? The advantage of having a set playable cast from launch is that rather than having to ham-fist lore to make the character's story relevant, Heaven Burns Red chooses to expand through character interactions. They release each character as an alternate costume that include a 5 to 10 minute skit which shows you a hidden or unexpected side of them. Or even better, discover chemistry between members of different squads you would have never expected to meet. Every character in this game has their own social network within the Seraph army that goes even beyond their own squad mates. Characters mingle with each other, which even surprises our protagonist when she finds out that side characters were already acquainted with each other. The interaction between characters is just so organic because the characters write themselves, basically. This is just fundamental comedy, fundamental writing. The writers just have to go, oh, what would happen if this character meets this character? Or if this happens in this scenario, what would this character do? This character would definitely show up, which makes for well-grounded and organic character interactions. To put it simply, it's just so satisfying to see how these characters come together so naturally, always appear in a scene with purpose. Friends and squad mates will appear in the background just to celebrate another character's glory or console each other in times of sorrow. The Seraph army is written like a dynamic community or even a family, and I can't say there's a character I hate because of that. Every character always gets their moment. So I know basically nothing about music, but even an amateur like me can understand just how much the music in this game accentuates story beats to really hit you in the feels. The moment you open the game and you start downloading that agonizingly long patch, you're already greeted by such a mystical tune that you forget how long that patch actually is. Then the tutorial hits with the same Yanagi Nagi vocal drop, then you know you're in for a treat. Also, do people still remember Angel Beats? That old 2010 anime with responding high school students that became a train wreck of an anime? Literally. But despite its flaws, it was still relatively popular at the time. Notably, the music in the anime had such banger hits. Classics like My Soul Your Beats featuring Leah, and the rock version which jump-started the now currently popular star Lisa's singing career. The anime also featured other hits like Crow Song, Alchemy, Thousand Enemies, but all of those were labeled under the in-universe fictional band called Girls' Demo. What is less known, however, is that even after the anime had finished airing, Jun Maeda continued to compose several tracks under the band name Girls' Demo until they had disbanded in December of the same year. Enter the spiritual successor, She Is Legend, which is another in-universe fictional band, but this time they've made the strategic decision to ride the momentum of a live service game. This works twofold as both part of the in-game lore and a marketing strategy by releasing albums and setting up live tour performances. All these bangers uploaded officially on YouTube Music or Spotify for us to enjoy. And just to sweeten the deal, you won't have to wait more than a year for the Angel Beats collab. Which I just need to say, they pulled all the stops in making this collab. Not only did they bring back old songs and have a ton of references for you to enjoy, they made arranged versions of the Girls' Demo songs, Crow Song and Alchemy, under the newly built She Is Legend band, and even brought back Marina, Iwasawa's singer, to do Ichiban no Takaramono. To top it all off, Angel Beats was also written by Jun Maeda himself, the writer for Heaven Burns Red. So the two stories featuring Hisako and Irie, yes, Irie is an actual character, they're essentially canonical conclusions to their character arc. This collab is the real deal, and you literally could not ask for more in a collab. Okay, so combat. I'm gonna keep it brief and leave the nitty-gritty for its own video down the line. Here are the fundamental mechanics of Heaven Burns Red's combat. Combat is turn-side based. After your team attacks, the enemy will then simultaneously counterattack. Characters gain SP every turn, which is the resource that lets them use various skills. You can bring 6 units into battle, 3 front line, 3 back line. You can switch them anytime during your turn. You fill up an overdrive gauge by attacking enemies and other supportive skills. This gives you a maximum of 3 terms, 5, 12, or 15 SP. There are 7 classes in the game: Attacker, Breaker, Blaster, Buffer, Debuffer, Healer, Defender. Okay, so I gotta cut the video a bit here. So my lazy ass procrastinated this video way too much, and now they released the new Admiral class. If one character's HP reaches 0, game over. Also, did I mention that HP under any circumstances cannot be restored? Like, even in JP, which is 3 years ahead, there is still no one who can heal HP, by the way. HP being unhealable has been a pretty hard rule since launch, which makes you wonder why increasing HP is even a stat in the game, but I digress. It may seem like an unfairly punishing mechanic, but frankly, I've had some really unforgettable clutch moments thanks to this mechanic. Oh, crap, I made a wrong prediction. No, don't die! What? Yo! So the general flow of combat is to brace yourself for the boss's attacks while trying to build the OD gauge. Once the OD fills, activate for extra turns, then stack your buffs and debuffs because most debuffs only last like one turn. If the boss's DP is broken, then you'll want to build up destruction rate too. Finish off the boss in one uber charge, grand slam, final blow, coup de grace! Or not. Lastly, I'll briefly touch on the content release schedule. Scheduled content, all of it is fully voiced, of course. Event stories come roughly monthly. It comes to the Shia's Legend live music video and a new rhythm game map. Then there's a score attack every 2 weeks. Main story releases or once a year. Gacha banners are released every 2 weeks. Each banner includes a memory story, which is a 5 to 10 minute skit that players can enjoy whether they have the unit or not. Other content releases like gameplay, combat, releases at their own pace. And that's Heaven Burns Red. Hopefully this video has piqued your interest and maybe you'll be willing to give the game a fair shot now that Global has been released. I'll definitely be playing the Global version free to play just to compare the English translations and help with newbies trying out the game. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll be sure to answer them, or maybe I'll make other videos. Also, I almost forgot. So a few months back, Summer Pockets, which is another visual novel written by Maida-jun, had their anime adaptation announced to be produced by Studio Feel, which is a fairly competent animation studio that had some anime I genuinely enjoyed. Summer Pockets had been scheduled to air in 2025, and you know what else is on 2025? Heaven Burn Red's 3rd year anniversary. So, just maybe, we might see a Summer Pockets collab. Yeah? Huh? Maybe?